Good night and welcome to Benalmádena's first English news broadcast. Digital Costa del Sol brings you every Friday all the information about this week's news. The Technical and Political Board agrees the suspension of all fairs during 2020 as a consequence of the health crisis because of the COVID-19. Last Friday, the third meeting of the Political and Technical Work Meeting was held for the preparation and application of the plan for the day after and the coordination of the de-escalation and the end of the state of alarm. The board, as on previous occasions, was attended by representatives of the PSOE, Izquierda Unida, PP and Ciudadanos parties. Among the issues that were addressed, the suspension of all fairs during 2020 was unanimously agreed by all parties, a necessary and recommended measure to take extreme sanitary precautions to prevent a new outbreak. Víctor Navas has valued this meeting as very fruitful. At the table, two dates were raised in which the City Council will reopen to the public for face-to-face care, either on Wednesday, May 27th or Monday, June 1st, and the reduction of the investment plan for this year to redirect resources to aid to maintain employment and productive activity in Benalmádena.
Se acordó también todas aquellas obras que no estuvieran licitadas.
All those works that were not tendered, the budgets will go to social services and containment measures to help citizens. A date has been set for the opening of the town hall as long as the security measures are guaranteed for workers and citizens who will be attended by appointment. On the other hand, the definitive date for the opening of the beaches will be June the 10th, and in this sense the table has unanimously agreed to demand from the board its commitment to grant subsidies to Benalmádena that facilitate the establishment of surveillance and control measures of the capacity, and to the provincial government the application that they announced that they would make available to municipalities as an instrument to measure capacity. In turn, has been agreed that the blue parking area will resume its activity shortly, and users will be informed that they will have to withdraw tickets for rotational use again, and that they have an application with which they can make payments electronically, thus dispensing with the use of machines. As for the markets, it has been agreed to postpone their opening for another week, which will be discussed again at the next meeting of the Political and Technical Working Table. Similarly, it has been agreed to postpone the definitive opening of public parks, such as the one in La Paloma, for another week, and the decision on its reopening will be moved to the next table meeting. As for the bars attached to the municipality's social centers, the Mesa has decided that they may open by submitting a prior request to the municipal government. Regarding the advisability that Benalmádena end up adhering to a seal that certifies the absence of COVID-19 in the municipality, at the table it was agreed to choose the one that has the recommendation of the Ministry of Health compared to other alternatives that lack sanitary guarantees. Spaniards in 2020 will travel through the country in their own vehicle accompanied by their nearest family circle and will stay in hotels or apartments according to a study conducted by Destinia, which also details that Benalmádena is one of the best destinations.
After being announced by the Prime Minister that it will finally be possible to travel from July, inquiries and reservations have exploded in the different tourist search engines, and Benalmádena has quickly placed itself among the most visited municipalities, according to a study carried out by the Spanish online travel agency Destinia. The Mayor and Councillor for Tourism, Víctor Navas, has shown his satisfaction with the interest that our municipality has awakened for people who have decided to travel this summer. Benalmádena, together with Torremolinos and Mojácar, are the three most visited Andalusian towns on the Internet. The Mayor stressed that this willingness of tourists to visit Benalmádena has led some hoteliers to reconsider who had decided not to open their establishments during the summer season. The analysis carried out by online agencies shows that there is an increase in searches in hotels in the national territory of 142% between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. last Saturday, and has observed a rebound in the number of reservations during those 5 hours just after the appearance of the Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, in which he encouraged the Spaniards to plan their vacations from now on, while ensuring the existence of a tourist season this summer, inviting tourist establishments to prepare to resume their activity in a few days. In addition, he assured that from the month of July, the entry of foreign tourism in Spain in safe conditions will resume. Due to the greater volume of inquiries, the most sought after towns since the statements of the Prime Minister have been Benidorm, Salou, Peñíscola, Lloret de Mar, Torremolinos, Cambrils, Benalmádena, Gandia. For the highest volume of inquiries, the most sought after towns since the statements the President of the Government has been Benidorm, Salou, Peñíscola, Lloret de Mar, Torremolinos, Cambrils, Benalmádena, Gandia, Mojácar, Santa Susana, Calella and Puerto de la Cruz. In addition to beach hotels, searches for rural hotels have also increased. In the study carried out, it was possible to detect that more than 60% of the people surveyed have shown great desire to travel this summer, and in almost 70% they will do only with their partner or with the direct family. 84% have declared that they will organize their trip independently, looking for information on the web, and the means of transport they will use will be the private car in 62% of the cases, and 31% will do it by plane. Regarding the duration of the holidays, they will be the same as they had planned before the pandemic in 54% of the cases, while 32% of those questioned have decided to reduce the number of days. Regarding destination preferences, the majority of Spaniards have decided to stay in Spain, and only slightly more than 20% will travel abroad. Sun and beach tourism is still preferred with 58%, while 24% will choose rural and nature areas. Regarding accommodation, 32% of people who have been interested in traveling this summer will stay in hotels and hostels, and almost 21% in tourist apartments. The preferred destination of those surveyed is Andalusia, and within our Benalmádena community saw the major calls for caution and to continue to comply with the standards established by health. According to the results of the survey, we can say that the Spanish in 2020 will travel through their country in their own vehicle and accompanied by people from the closest circle. A rejection of tour-type travel has been observed due to the risk of contagion when meeting with unknown people. Tourism enters a new era, and suppliers will have to adapt their offer to the new scenario, but what is important, and this data represent, is the interest in our destination, which continues to be the favorite destination in the case for the Spanish, and also the study transmits tranquility to the whole of the citizenry about the coming months, because we will have summer and the intention to travel remains.
Spain will lift 2-week coronavirus quarantine for overseas arrivals from July the 1st. Foreign Minister says via Twitter that we have left the hardest part and the health conditions will be guaranteed for visitors. The Spanish government is planning on lifting the 2-week coronavirus quarantine requirement for overseas arrival on July the 1st. The decision was taken at an interministerial meeting held via video conference call. Since May 15, the Spanish Health Ministry has required travelers arriving from outside the country to remain isolated for 14 days. The government had said that the measures would be scrapped once the state of alarm was lifted, but this weekend Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez suggested that the state of alarm, which has been in place since March 14 and has given the government extra powers to combat the spread of the virus, could be ended in some areas before others, a process that may begin as early as this week. Before May 15, the isolation period had only been applied to repatriated Spaniards and residents of Spain traveling from Italy. The rules currently in place apply to all international travelers, with a few exceptions for specific types of worker. The travel sector was particularly concerned about the quarantine period, which has also been adopted by other European countries, such as the United Kingdom, for the effect that it could have on the arrival of overseas tourists this summer. The Spanish government, however, has recently shifted its position on the summer season, having initially suggested it would have to be written off due to the coronavirus crisis. Given the positive progress of the academic in Spain, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced on Saturday during a televised address that the sector should start to get ready for the summer season and that overseas tourists would be welcome into the country under safe conditions from July. He also encouraged Spaniards to start planning domestic vacations from as early as June. Writing via Twitter today, Foreign Minister Arantxa González said that the most difficult part of the coronavirus crisis is behind us. From July, we will gradually reactivate international tourism, we will lift the quarantine and ensure safe health conditions. The Chancellor of Urban Planning, María Isabel Ruiz, has announced on the plenary session that the modification of elements that the citizens have to pay as taxes, they won't have to do it in cases of minor works. The Benalmádena City Council continues to take measures to make it easier for citizens to recover after the economic crisis that we are suffering from the coronavirus. In this way, the Councillor for Urbanism, María Isabel Ruiz, has announced that her delegation is going to promote a modification of elements to eliminate the need to process minor works license that meet a series of requirements.
Mañana llevamos al pleno ordinario del mes de mayo la aprobación.
The initial approval of the modification of the elements of the general plan for the processing of the minor works permit has been brought to the ordinary plenary session, which are all those that are carried out within the dwellings and that affect the distribution. It is a way to speed up the process, alleviating the tax burden on citizens. The City Council will exempt from the payment of the rate and the ICIO, tax on constructions, installations and works, to those works that are carried out inside homes without modifying their distribution and with a budget less than 20,000 euros. In addition, they will not have to process the minor construction license either. With this modification, a dual objective is intended, according to the Councillor, to alleviate the tax burden on citizens, avoiding them having to pay a fee and tax for a small project, and streamline the work of the Department of Urban Planning due to the relief of the burden of files that suppose, in these cases, to eliminate the need for minor construction license. This measure is framed within the current situation and within the scope of the After-Day Plan initiatives to reduce the tax burden on the economy of Benalmádena families motivated by the health crisis of COVID-19. Education between the distribution of cards with internet connection between students without this resource. The City Council tries to provide all students with the education tool that allow them to continue with their academic work during the confinement. The Councillor for Education, Elena Galán, has announced last Monday, May 25th, the distribution of cards with an internet connection has begun among the students who lack access to this resource. The distribution will be made by the workers of the culture and education area themselves. The obligation is to put all the means of the City Council to try to provide all students with the educational tools that allow them to continue with their academic work during the confinement motivated by the state of alarm, said the mayor of Benalmádena, Víctor Navas. The Councilwoman for Education has detailed that the City Council is working hard to provide these tools. From the schools themselves, we have been informed about those students who urgently require access to these cards, or which we are going to distribute a total of 60, the majority to students of secondary education. Galán recalled that the Education Delegation continues to distribute school supplies such as exercises cards or educational books so that the students, especially those in primary, can continue working from home. From the City Council wants to lend the collaboration to avoid the gap between students with resources and the most vulnerable in the social field that could occur in the academic field during the confinement of the state of alarm, concluded Galán. And these are today's headlines. No fairs or celebrations at the streets along 2020. Benalmádena priority destination to travel this summer. Spain getting ready for July the 1st. The Benalmadenses will not pay the taxes. Cards with internet connection for students. The weather forecast for the weekend will leave us with low cloud skies with high cloud intervals and daytime evolution cloudiness in the eastern and northern range. Temperatures with little change, east component winds on the Mediterranean slope, weak in the rest, tending in the afternoon to a southern component. Lift strong in the strait with very strong streaks. That's all. Thank you for watching us. You can stay updated on our website or social media profiles on Facebook and Twitter. Have a good night and enjoy the weekend.